Many people and many entities involved. And we're going to follow this evidence wherever it takes us. We will find the silent accomplices. We will expose the enablers who enabled this conduct behind closed doors. We will pursue this matter no matter who the evidence implicates.
That's Tony Busby, a very aggressive plaintiff's attorney from Texas, who is sort of leading the charge in all of these civil suits against P. Diddy. Now, there he says, wherever the evidence goes, whoever gets named gets named. Well, the big name that dropped just recently was Jay-Z. Let's take a look at the allegation from the lawsuit. For those of you who don't recall these allegations, it goes all the way back to September 7th of 2000. At the Video Music Awards after party. Then 13-year-old plaintiff, that's his client, was invited by a limo driver who said she, quote, fit what Diddy was looking for. The plaintiff recognized many celebrities at the party and observed marijuana and cocaine use. The plaintiff began to feel woozy and lightheaded after drinking some of a beverage given to her by a waitress. The plaintiff entered an empty bedroom to lie down for a moment. The room contained only a large bed, no other furniture. Here's where it gets graphic. Soon after, Combs entered the room, along with defendant Carter, that is Jay-Z, and a female celebrity, Celebrity B, who has not been named. Again, this is back in 2000. Combs aggressively approached plaintiff with a crazed look in his eyes, grabbed her and said, "You are ready to party." Combs then threw the plaintiff toward a wall, causing the plaintiff to fall. The plaintiff got up, stumbled, at which point Combs grabbed her again and threw her on the bed. At that point, Carter began removing plaintiff's clothes as she grew more and more disoriented. Plaintiff was held down by Carter as he vaginally raped her while Combs and Celebrity B, that woman, watched. After Carter finished, he stepped back towards the wall. Combs then stepped forward and vaginally raped the plaintiff while Carter and that woman, Celebrity B, watched. Okay, those are the allegations. Let me bring in our special guest, joining me, author and certified mental health counselor who specializes in child abuse, neglect, and trauma, Sharonda Brown. All right, Sharonda, if this allegation is true for a 13-year-old, what type of trauma are we talking about?
We're talking about extensive trauma. We're talking about frontal lobe issues, temporal lobe issues, where we're talking about memory, we're talking about an increase in anger, an increase in frustration. We're talking about sensory fragments where you remember sense of smell, you remember everything, every little detail because you're stuck there and you can't progress and you can't move forward. I think there are also other things we have to consider. In studying this case, the alleged victim reported that she, struggles with autism and she had a brain injury. And so when you add those factors in there and she has a history of epilepsy, those things also affect memory. And I think that that's the part that's going to make this pretty challenging. But in the effect that there's some sexual trauma there, there's going to be a lot to pull apart with a case like this.
Okay, now the lawsuit says after the alleged rape, the teen ran from the party and called her dad to come pick her up from a gas station. Chloe Mellis at NBC News spoke to the unnamed accuser and her father in this investigative report.
We rode home in silence. He didn't ask me what happened. He didn't ask me what I did or where I was.
In an interview with NBC News, her father said he could not verify the claims. Quote, "I felt like I would remember that, and I don't. I have a lot going on, but I mean, that's something that would definitely stick in my mind," he said. When we asked the woman about the contradictions in a phone interview on Friday, she said that she stands by her statements. "I have made some mistakes," she said. "Honestly, what is the clearest is what happened to me."
Okay, Sharonda, what are your thoughts about the latest statements from the accuser and from her father, who was, according to her, the one who came to pick her up?
I think it's difficult to tell someone who says they've been raped in the way that she explains it that they haven't been. So I can't necessarily question her truth. I think it's important to note that those around her who she named that was also involved in or supported her during this tough time, they don't remember the situation. And so I think that those raise flags. But I also think that there is a lot of struggle with memory. And if we're talking about drug use, and like I said, we're talking about temporal lobe issues, then we are talking about questionable memory. How much do you remember? How much can you say was fact versus how much is maybe vicarious trauma? And what vicarious trauma is when you've heard the narrative so many times that you begin to believe that it's your narrative, and you will take on these feelings, beliefs, and ideas as if they're yours. And I think with all the other things she has going on, those are things that will come into question if she was someone that I was seeing. Not necessarily questioning her truth about being raped, but I would definitely explore all those possibilities.
And how about the passage of time here? We're talking about 24 years later, right? This goes back to 2000. It's 2024. Going back 24 years to remember something that happened to you when you were 13, how accurate would you expect those memories to be?
I think when it comes to trauma victims, 20 years ago feels like yesterday. So I do think that there is some details that they will remember. They will remember scents. They will remember sounds, voices. They will remember all that as if it just happened yesterday. So I don't think that the time frame of it all, plays a huge factor. Now, I do know that there are some clients who will block things out, but the minute you start unraveling, it will come to them with such clarity. So I don't think that 20 years ago makes any difference to a trauma victim, because to them, it feels like yesterday or like they're still in the moment. And that's what hypervigilance is.
And is there any way from your perspective when you're talking to someone to work through to figure out what is an actual memory versus what is perhaps, your mind playing tricks on you or some impact from the trauma itself? Is there any way to peel back any of those layers, or is it just is what it is?
No, I have many tools that I use to peel back those layers. I definitely create trauma narratives, or I allow the client to create the trauma narrative. I do dissect what they've been watching, who they've been speaking to, what they've been listening to, because sometimes those things can come up in the narrative or in the story. And so I have to help them pull apart what is real versus what they feel. And those things prove to be pretty successful with most of the clients that I've worked with who have been victims of sexual and physical trauma. And I think a lot of times they're able to say, you know what, I did see that somewhere else, or I heard that, or I've owned that, and it doesn't belong to me. But that also comes with doing really good extensive trauma work. So I think someone definitely should sit down with her and piece apart what is it that is real versus what you feel, because making mistakes in a situation like this is pretty critical and pretty crucial. So it's important to be very clear.
Sharonda Brown, always great insight. We appreciate your valuable time. Thank you so much. All right.
You're welcome.
My think tank's still with us. Al Wunsch, Darnell Crossland, and Jennifer Brandt. So Jay-Z responded very quickly now after this latest revelation and said this incident didn't happen, and yet he filed it, meaning the attorney, in court and doubled down in the press. True justice is coming. We fight from victory, not for victory. Jennifer Brandt, what about this whole thing from Jay-Z's perspective? If none of this happened, if absolutely none of this happened, what should he do? What will he do?
Well, I think first he's going to disprove these claims and, and show that he wasn't there, or come up with some reason, why this is all false. And there are some inconsistencies in the story already. Whether he goes after her now, goes after the victim. I mean, there's probably not much there, but I think he's got to repair his reputation, and maybe it's easier said than done. If this all shows that it's not true, I think people will, look past this and say, it wasn't him. It was a false allegation, and go on. I think the public is very forgiving about these things.
Darnell, it's like open season on anyone who has taken pictures with Diddy, anyone who's been to any Diddy event or has at any point been associated with him, especially if you have a lot of money. What are your thoughts about Jay-Z's response here, and what do you think he should do from this point moving forward?
Well, it's getting more and more interesting as we move along, and I think that while I respect plaintiffs' attorneys, like all attorneys, we have an obligation to do our homework. We have an obligation to realize that once we put someone in a lawsuit, they're going to have an impact on their reputation. So, you know, like I said, I represent Joseph Sherman, who was P. Diddy's bodyguard and who's accused of a forceful rape against Atalia Graves, represented by Gloria Allred. We have so much information that came out that that's false that we had no choice but to sue Gloria Allred personally and her client. Right after we did that, 3 people sued Busby. Jay-Z was one of them. So I think what you're going to be seeing is a lot more people saying enough is enough. We're not going to do this unidentified victim thing and settle out of court and then just live with it. So, you know, I'm proud to lead the pack on suing one of the top lawyers who brought this out. And now Busby's been sued as well. And I think so Jay-Z is going to stand his ground. He should. And like he said, if it's this bad, arrest me, you know, bring criminal charges. So I think he's doing the right thing. And hopefully justice will look in the form of people withdrawing these lawsuits. And maybe they might have to suffer a defamation lawsuit and pay like we did.
All right, Al, I'll give you the last 15 seconds here. Your thoughts on where all of this is going?
Well, you know, I got to tell you that the plaintiff's attorney has certainly made things very interesting, putting in celebrity B. I wonder who that could possibly be. A female? Letter B? Queen B, maybe?
Nope, it's 2000. Not together yet.
They're not together yet, but I mean, by putting in these type of things and making that suggestion, it does make it very interesting to see where things are going. But the fact that the father has no idea that anything like this happened and doesn't recall anything that night out of the ordinary is very troubling to me.
All right, Think Tank coming back. When we return, the latest on Diddy. He's getting a laptop. Is he getting celebrity treatment? We'll break it down next.
Delivered with Pizza Hut.
Today I'm announcing the unsealing of a 3-count indictment, charging Sean Combs with racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking, interstate transportation for prostitution. The indictment alleges that between at least 2008 and the present, Combs abused, threatened, and coerced victims to fulfill his sexual desires, protect his reputation, and conceal his conduct.
And now the latest development for Diddy, who's been trying to get out on bond, get out on bail, but has been denied over and over again. So he's sitting in a jail. But now take a look at the latest order from the district court judge, the federal district judge. The MDC, which is the place where he is staying, is ordered to give defendant access to the Discovery laptop 7 days per week from 8 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. The purpose of the Discovery laptop is to review Discovery, not to take or store notes. It is the court's understanding that the laptop has been preloaded with Discovery materials, but does not allow any functionality beyond reviewing those materials. Let's bring back in our think tank Al Wunsch, Darnell Crossland, Jennifer Brandt. Darnell, kind of sounds like an inmate Discovery Kindle.
Yes, it's common, and it even gets better. So
poor defendants get it also?
Yes. Poor defendants get it also. So at some jails in the federal system, you sign up and you go down to a room and you get a certain amount of hours to review the Discovery. Some places they allow you to have a laptop, and even after people are sentenced, you might not notice, but almost all my clients, they get these iPads and they can call me directly from the cell. They can call their families from the cell. It's getting better and better now. But the Discovery laptop is nothing new. So they're restricted. You can't call out. You only go review the Discovery. And in the federal system, the Discovery is so voluminous, they have what they call bait numbers. And so you might have bait 001 into the multi-thousands, and you have to go through each one. So it's not unusual.
Al, do you think Diddy's going to sit down and read all of it?
Well, he's got nothing better to do. So, of course, he's going to be reading it. Plus, this is his life. I mean, I would want to know everything that's going on with regards to same and get all that information, out in front of me and find out who's saying what and everything along those lines. I mean, Sean, is this is actually makes things a lot easier for an attorney, because dropping off papers and reams of paper, as we know these kind of indictments would encompass, is just too ridiculous. So this is fair. New York does this. My understanding is Georgia's going to start doing this too. So it is going across the country. Sam Bankman-Fried had the same situation because of all the numerous documents necessary in his case. He also had access in order to be able to find all those discovery documents and go through. I'm sure Sean's going to be reading everything that's put forth there.
Sean, he knows him by first name. That's awesome.
Well,
Yeah. Back in the day.
I almost got to a party once.
Yeah. Everyone who's ever been on this show talking about Diddy parties says either I went to the party and then it got to 11 o'clock and I left, or I almost got to the Diddy party. That no one has actually ever admitted being at the Diddy after party. But let me ask you, Jennifer Brandt, from the beginning, we saw the seizure and all this chatter. If you go online, there's just thousands of rabbit holes you can go down with Diddy, right? But the videos, like, to me, if videos exist of all this stuff, which is what we're sort of led to believe, that would be the most important evidence. So my question, should Diddy be watching any of these videos if they exist, if they're part of the discovery?
Well, we presume that, he may know already what went on in the videos, but yes, he should be looking at everything and being able to tell his lawyers, what is and isn't accurate. That's the whole point of having him review all the discovery and make sure that he understands what's going on so that he can refute some of the claims that are being made against him and maybe say, look, I wasn't there, or this is wrong, or nothing happened, whatever it may be. The more he can participate, the better off his case is going to be, the stronger it could be.
Darnell, do you suspect that any of the discovery includes any videos?
Yeah, that's the thing I was going to bring up. So even now, it's because there's allegations that some of these victims were underage, that's considered child pornography. And even the most learned attorneys, such as Al, we can't possess those. So what I have to do is we have to go to the government's office, set up a time, and we can watch the child porn, if you would, and take notes, but we can't possess them. So it's going to be difficult to see or interesting to see how that's a government computer. So maybe he can, but if not, they're going to have to figure that part out where he can review those and say, I don't know that person.
It's
but
really
we're
murky,
not technically
really
allowed
fast.
to possess that.
All right,
Yeah.
We'll stay on the story. Al Wunsch, Darnell Cross, and Jennifer Brandt, thank you all so much.